Hey guys, Dazzler Magic here, and it's time for another comprehensive rules change coverage. I don't know why me covering these rules changes videos ever gets views, but it does, and I need the money. So this update was written by Eli Schifrin, one of the funnier authors they have at Wizards, but the bar was set unbelievably low. Apparently Seattle's big into puns and dad humor. First up, we got 101.4e. That's the last one I'm naming because who gives a crap what number it is. So this rule actually talks about AP-NAP order, which is the active player, non-active player order. I assume that also includes like priority passing and stuff, and who can do what, when, and who has to hold priority to do certain things, and when you can respond and all that. Very, very important actually in competitive Magic. So rules change here, I mean, buckle up, but this one isn't too nuts, it's pretty obvious. It covers, what you do once the game has begun, but what about before the game has begun? Because then by rule, there is no active player. Well, they have just revised it, so the starting player is now the active player. I suspect that this involves what order you have to display your companion or something. I don't know. Maybe it's a very overdue patch to talk about who has to make a mulligan decision first, which, by the way, you want a tactical advantage at F&M. I believe it's the person who is going first has to reveal if they are mulliganing or not. And if they ask you, you can just say, I'm waiting on you because you have to tell me first. So if they want to make their mulligan decision dependent on you, you don't have to tell them. Which can result in a devastating game loss if they keep the hand, or a mulligan that maybe wasn't necessary if you're mulliganing. Like if they kept if they were going to keep a slow hand, and you're mulliganing, so you probably don't have that speedy of a hand, they probably could have kept that if they would have known, and that's usually why they're asking. So anyway, moving on to the next one. And this is on a very similar note, so they're really revising the whole thing here, but this has some clarifications. So they say the game begins by shuffling up your decks and choosing who goes first. In practice, most players do these together by rolling a die in the middle of shuffling or just whatever. But the rules have to say which happens first. I disagreed until I read what he said, because if you're going to determine who goes first before you shuffle because it's important how you choose the shuffle, no, how about we shuffle first, completely randomize the deck, and then we determine who goes first. But the actual important thing here, according to the reminder at the end of this rules change note, is apparently you could choose from two different companions. Like when you, I guess, register a deck list, you don't say, and this is my companion. If you run like Yorion and the Big Chunky Boy or whatever, I don't remember if you could qualify your deck for both, you could apparently go with one or the other. And if your opponent goes first, you might want to choose your companion based on what their companion is. And then they added an additional note that you can keep doing whatever the hell you were doing before. If you both agree, it doesn't matter. So I still don't know when you're supposed to present your companion, but apparently it's early enough that it might matter, and you can force them to show theirs first. Which means by rule, you have to determine who goes first before anything, so whatever. I mean, if you keep stacking up tiny little advantages, like when morph was a thing, did you know that at the end of the game, if your opponent has a non-flipped morph creature, they by rule have to flip it over and show it to you? I had a screenshot of that rule on my phone because people were like, oh no, I'm not giving you more information about my deck, but it's a rule. I don't know why it's a rule, but it's a rule, and I want to see what you're playing. So it really does help to know the rules. Next up, we've got objects only have a controller if they're on the stack or battlefield. There were 5 exceptions to that, and now there are 6. The 6th is mana abilities, which don't use the stack but are still abilities that can instruct, quote, you to do something, and the word you always refers to a controller. So that rule has been written incorrectly for 26 years. Like, when were mana abilities invented? Black Lotus? I think that's a mana ability, technically. I'm not 100% sure. Okay, so they now have a controller. I thought all abilities had controllers, but they just didn't state it expressly. The next one, I don't really understand. There was some kind of like reference to 8 special actions, and then Companion made it 9, but it was supposed to be 8 or something, and now it's back to 8. Okay, cool, I don't care. Next up, this one's a doozy. You know Zilortha, Strength Incarnate, the card that doesn't exist? Because its nickname is Godzilla King of the Monsters, but Zilortha, I guess, was never actually printed as a card. Or something like that. I think that's the right one. Well, because it says, trample, lethal damage dealt to creatures you control is determined by their power rather than their toughness. I guess that's never been done before, so now they had to clarify the excess damage rule to explicitly refer to lethal damage. I can't imagine what it said before, because it's always been lethal damage, but I guess whatever. Maybe they, referred to the toughness by name when really it should have said lethal damage, whatever it may be, because Zilortha changed it, but whatever. Good to know. It's not like we couldn't have figured out how it works, but whatever. I'm a stickler for perfection. They always throw in these really exciting ones. Basri joins the list of Planeswalker types, because remember, every Planeswalker has a super type of Planeswalker that's inherent, but it also has the super type of the name. So in order to add a new super type to the game, they have to actually change the rules. What a great system. Also, because of, I guess, shapeshifters or something like that, or, I don't know, naming subtypes by name for boosting or some crap, they also have a rule that has a list of all potential subtypes, and now Dog officially joins it, and Hound is now removed. So they're going hard on that Oracle update. Or I should say errata. I don't know what it would technically be, whatever. Next up, there was a problem found with linked abilities. I guess what they mean is something says it exiles one card and then it refers to that one exiled card, like the card exiled with blah. But if you were to duplicate that effect with one of multiple different ways, like Panharmonicon, just triggered abilities trigger twice. Well, now what do you mean it's referring to the card? There's two cards, probably two different cards in exile, so what do? I guess the old reference was saying that it was like a card, which implied two or something, but if you want to interact with one of the cards, it actually has to be one of the cards. So I guess they clarified it to say it's like one but not both. I don't know, depending upon the way it's worded, I would almost interpret it as two, so okay. I guess if they really wanted it to, it would say all cards, and if it said like the card and it triggered twice, you would have to choose, because it's as if you did it like literally twice, like turn after turn. I don't know. Here's one where I never agreed with how this worked. If something exiles something else until an event happens, but then that event happens before the thing even gets exiled, like on the stack or whatever, it basically doesn't flicker. It never leaves the battlefield, which that's ridiculous. Like it's an exile trigger and then a comeback trigger. It should leave the battlefield and come back. But as you probably noticed, if you try to exile something with one of those, enter the battlefield, exile it, guys. Like that one blue-white guy with like Dovin on it. I don't remember the name of the card. If you target like their whole line of tokens and it says exile each one with the same name, and then it's until this leaves the battlefield, and then in response to that trigger going on the stack, they hit it with a kill spell, those tokens never leave play. Why not? They should leave play to exile and then immediately come back, which for tokens means they're not coming back. It makes no sense why it would possibly work that way. So unfortunately, they're not changing that, but they say a palace jailer exiles a creature until someone else becomes the monarch, if you remember that from Conspiracy 2, and a player may have become the monarch much earlier in the game. The rule now checks only for that until event after the spell or abilities put on the stack or triggers. Really? They really think that was referencing like a retroactive condition that ever occurred in the game. I wouldn't have read it that way, but sure, revise the rule. And while you're revising it, fix it so the things actually leave play. I mean, I didn't read something that says exile a token and everything with the same name until this leaves play. Oh, unless this leaves play first, then don't exile it in the first place. I don't remember reading that on the reminder text. Next up, more confusing crap, but they give an example to explain it. Layer 1A is where we apply effects that set copyable values. It's been missing one thing from the old rules on copyable values, replacement effects that define values, like Primal Clay, that's a 4-cost star artifact creature shapeshifter. When it enters the battlefield, it becomes your choice of a 3/3 artifact creature, 2/2 artifact creature with flying, or a 1/6 wall artifact creature with defender, in addition to its other types. So I guess that didn't work properly, or it wasn't defined or something. I don't know. I mean, my reading on it would have been if you clone a Primal Clay, then you clone whatever its current state is and you don't get to redetermine what it is, but they seem to be saying that you do. That's not how I interpreted the rule, but as far as I know, they're just literally changing the rule, so whatever. Apparently they're correcting a typo in one of the rules where they just forgot to put the word time in there. And I know you all saw this coming. Mill joins the list of evergreen keyword actions. Just kill me now. Also, the description for Dredge, or the official reminder text, or whatever you want to call it, has been updated to just include the word mill now. Like, where applicable. It's instead of saying, oh, Dredge, do this, and then blah, 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 whatever, it now says, and then mill. Apparently the list of state-based actions is getting ridiculous, probably because of all the power creep lately, so they just broke it out into its own rule. It was like literally gonna roll over past like the limit of the alphabet, and it would have had to have been named like AA or something, so they're just like, it's 704.6 now. Oh, and then we have the legendary 704.6D. People kept telling me about this, and nobody was able to explain what it actually means or any of that. Other than there was massive leaks about this, okay? Those commander douchebags are at it again, the people who run the commander ban list. It had to have been them. Basically, a couple days before it was publicly leaked, if I could say publicly leaked, about a change in how the commander like death triggers work, and it was highly benefit one particular card, and that card shot up in price days ahead of time. So once again, insider trading from the commander douchebags. It was either that or someone at Wizards, but we all know that Wizards was talking to the commander people to change that commander rule. So one of them leaked it again, and they leaked it to their friends, and they all bought up a bunch of cards and made money on it again. I really wish these were secured assets so the SEC could throw their crooked asses in jail. Every single one of them, in my opinion, until one of them comes forward and admits that it was them the whole time, is a just traitor to the Magic community, an absolute parasite, and an insider trader. Anyway, the actual rule changes. There's a new commander state-based action. If your commander moves to a graveyard or exile, you get one chance to move it to the command zone. The old replacement effect no longer applies to dying or getting exiled, so your commander can die a bunch now. What the hell does that mean? What a terrible explanation of how this rules change works. So I don't know if this is technically correct, but this is effectively how it works now. It used to be a replacement effect. So it's like, if your commander would die, instead you can choose to put it in the command zone. And then guess what? It didn't die. No death triggers go off. For the record, I think I've been playing that wrong. Now, it does die, and that as a state-based action, it checks to see, like, is it a commander and did it just die? Okay, immediate state-based action. Now they can choose to put it in the command zone. Same with Exile. So basically, you'll get a death trigger on it. So cards that care about death triggers just spiked in price because of insider trading, because people knew about this before Channel Fireball made it public on June 8th. I think the card that spiked in price was Elaine to the Dusk Rose, because she's like insanely powerful. And she refers to herself dying, so it's a self-contained combo. So I guess this wouldn't have gone off before, but now it does. So she's legendary. She's a 1/1 for 4, lifelink. And whenever another creature dies, put a 1/1 counter on her. And then whenever she dies, create X 1/1 white vampire creature tokens with lifelink, where X is Elenda power. Hello. Elenda ain't playing, all right? If she's going down, she is gonna wreck your shit on the way out. Yeah, May through June 5th, she went up like 50%. So, and that's across all markets. On certain particular markets, it went up even higher, I heard. So, there it is again. Commander douchebags ripping off the entire community and hoarding cards. Wish one of the vendors would reveal their shipping information. Change your privacy policy and say, hey, if you're involved in buying up 100 copies of something and then we find out that you had inside information, we're going to publicly tweet your home address. That'd be the end of that. You'd have to go to eBay then or something, because if they just stopped tolerating this and allowing it to happen, then it wouldn't happen. At least I think in most cases on Card Kingdom, you just simply can't buy more than 8 of anything, because they don't want to be on the bad end of a buyout, because then, now we just sold 80 of it, that's the majority of our stock, and look, it went up. Good for us, we just lost out on selling them for a higher price. So they at least have their heads screwed on straight with this bullshit. TCG Player, Card Shark, and eBay, not so much. Next up, I assure you I didn't read these ahead of time. They say 707.9, if you've got a face-down morph creature, you have to reveal it if it leaves the battlefield or if you lose. I did not know it was only if you lose. I thought it was if the game ends, period. Who cares who lost? Everybody with a morph has to reveal it. In fact, the official ruling on every single morph creature in the Gatherer as of 2014 is if a face-down permanent leaves the battlefield, you must reveal it. You must also reveal all face-down spells and permanents you control if you leave the game or the game ends. It does not matter who wins. I don't know why they're saying it does all of a sudden. So, okay, the first sentence in this is just completely and utterly wrong. Ignore it. But they said the rule has been updated for what happens when you have a face-up creature that has a face-down card floating around inside of it thanks to a mutating creature spell. So basically, you've got a morph, and then without flipping it up, you mutate on top of it. Which then does it even maintain morph, and what would happen when you flip it over? Who the hell knows? But you do still have to reveal that face-down component if the game ends. Not necessarily just if you lose, Eli. Get your rules right. And then we just start getting into the dumb rules here. They added a new rule in the 714 section. This rule explains how chapter symbols use Roman numerals. In case you're an idiot. I guess no sagas went past 3, and now that they do, they have to explain that IV means 4. It's probably important to non-English speakers of the game. I mean, whatever. For the record, the Romans didn't even speak English. Next one, see if you can follow this one. I read it twice and I still don't quite get it. Yawgmoth's Will is like a problematic card in this where it says until end of turn you may play cards from your graveyard. If a card would be put into your graveyard from anywhere this turn, exile that card instead. It's not the only one that says that. It says this will exile cards that would be put into your graveyard if you have a merged permanent, aka basically a morph creature. I assume it applies to like, what was it, those the like Angel, another one from Eldritch Moon, whatever. But basically it could have some cards and tokens mingling in the mix, because we had to have 50 different rule changes to have morph be a thing because Mark's an idiot. So this new rule clarifies how Yawgmoth feels about this. If a permanent isn't a token, it gets exiled, even token components. I don't know what that means. And if it is, the permanent dies, but the cards among it get exiled. Well, I mean, yeah, it's not a death replacement trigger, but the cards among it, well, and the card. I mean, they should have said that. Like, I don't get where they're going with this, but basically, it's a morph. Treat it like you treat a morph. It's all together. If one goes to exile, they all go to exile. I mean, that's Dess's simplified rulebook there. And finally, coming in at 903.3D, we've got when we talk about a permanent, an elf, a Chandra, or a land, we always mean an object on the battlefield matching that description. When we want to refer to a spell, we use the word spell in there. Or they use the word this. I guess that's not always correct. It's not always the word spell. That's all well established, but commanders make it weird. We don't use spell to refer to cast your commander, but we don't. But if we don't, does that mean you control your commander while it's on the stack? No, I think most people know that. This new rule helps to clear up the language on what your commander means in various cases, like literally the phrase your commander. I'd say who's that dumb, but pro players are such angle shooting douches, they would probably get out a printed section of the rules and be, well, it never says I can't do that. And the judge would probably feel obligated to DQ them on the spot for being a petty little dick, but, whatever. The more accurate the rules are, the better. So that's it for changes. Nothing too drastic, but some interesting stuff. Mostly just morph-related garbage because morph is the worst thing ever. I still have about 30 different unresolved questions about morph. I'm sure this is not the last rules update we'll see involving them. I don't think they've covered every scenario that could potentially ever happen ever. But anyway, that's it for the rules changes. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. I will see you guys next video.